Hello, and welcome back to another marvelous anime video. The entire underworld culture and the darker aspects of our society have captivated the imaginations of audiences around the world for quite a long time now. From Mario Puzo's novels featuring the Sicilian Mafia to the Sopranos, the lives of these gangsters have been heavily glamorized over the years. Therefore, it makes sense that even anime and manga are no strangers to this phenomenon. The characters in these series are rarely purely good or evil. Instead, they navigate corrupt systems, question their values, and challenge the audience to examine their inner selves. Whether set during the Prohibition era of America, like 91 Days, or in lawless fictional cities like Black Lagoon, these animes offer suspenseful storytelling packed with psychological tension and visceral action. Gangster animes aren't just about violence, they're about consequences. Every bullet fired, every betrayal committed, and every deal made carries emotional and narrative weight, making these series as thought-provoking as they are thrilling. In today's video, we'll be exploring 6 of the most mature and visceral gangster anime to have ever come out, so fasten your seatbelts as we take you through the vast underbelly of society where people live and die by the gun. And if you're looking for clean heroes and neat resolutions, we suggest you look elsewhere. Let's dive on in. Bakano! Bakano, which roughly translates to ruckus in Italian, is an anime based on the eponymous light novel series written by Japanese author Ryogo Narita. The anime ran for 16 episodes and was directed by Takahiro Omori and produced by Brian Bass. The story is told from multiple different points of view in a non-linear fashion. This anime is mostly set during America's Prohibition era and features a diverse cast of characters, including alchemists, mafiosos, petty thieves, and camorristi. All of these groups and individuals are initially disconnected from one another, but as the story progresses, their paths converge, and they discover that their fate has been predetermined long before they even realized it. The whole thing kicks off when a group of alchemists manage to summon a demon from whom they gain the elixir of immortality. When one of these alchemists goes rogue and begins killing the rest, the remaining survivors scatter across the globe. Fast forward to the Prohibition era, and the rogue alchemist Szilard has managed to recreate this miraculous elixir, only to have it stolen by a brash young thief named Dallas Genoa. With the elixir now in the hands of a thief with mafia connections, it moves from hand to hand through the city with Szilard in hot pursuit. As tension rises with this supernatural quest, paralleled by a mafia gang war, the audience is left on the edge as they're taken through a roller coaster ride through time and space in a tale filled with violence, betrayal, loyalty, love, and the ultimate pursuit of eternal light. From gang wars, immortal alchemists, serial killers, and rival mafiosos, Bakano has it all. There's no central protagonist in the series, and the story unfolds across several characters, each of whom presents a partial understanding of the narrative to the audience. The series is eerily reminiscent of a Quentin Tarantino film, where various stories unfold simultaneously, intersecting in unexpected and often explosive ways. Bakano is a modern-day masterpiece in terms of its narrative and storytelling, as it takes the audience on a wild ride that sucks you into its violent, noir world. Gunra! Produced by Studio Madhouse, this is a 26-episode-long anime based on a video game created by Yasuhiro Naidao, who's also the creator of Trigun. It tells the story of 2 best friends, Brandon Heat and Harry McDowell, as they join the criminal mafia group Millennium. At first glance, it seems like a typical gangster story about 2 orphans growing up in a struggling neighborhood who discover loyalty, brotherhood, and opportunity within the world of organized crime. However, as we go further into the story, it reveals its many layers as we're confronted with an epic tale of ambition, betrayal, and love. The anime diverges from being just another mafia series as it begins incorporating supernatural and sci-fi elements within itself. Brandon Heat, the protagonist of the series, is a quite introverted young man who's well loved by the head of Millennium called Big Daddy, who views him as a son. He's fiercely loyal to both the organization and its leader, and most of all to his best friend Harry. Brandon is also deeply in love with Maria, who serves as one of the key emotional threads in the series. However, he's betrayed and killed by his friend Harry, who secretly harbors the ambition of rising to the very top of Millennium and grabbing control of. After having disposed of his best friend and Big Daddy, his corruption begins to seep through the organization as they turn into a truly malevolent institution. Brandon, however, is brought back from the dead as he sets out to rescue his love while avenging himself on Harry and the now corrupt Millennium. There's a stark difference between the first and second half of the series as it transitions from a grounded mafia-style crime drama into a sci-fi horror story with a dystopic setting. Gunra Gungrave is a hidden gem, a story that blends mafia crime drama with sci-fi horror and emotional tragedy. It explores how ambition destroys love and how loyalty can be both a strength and a curse. The final episodes are heart-wrenching, and the ending, while quiet, is powerful. Gungrave is a series that's definitely for everyone. It rewards patience, emotional investment, and attention to character nuance. Requiem for the Phantom. Phantom Requiem. After a young Japanese student unwittingly witnesses an assassination carried out by a crime syndicate called Inferno, he's kidnapped by them and subjected to harrowing ordeals. We learn that this young man had the misfortune of seeing one of the world's greatest assassins, codenamed Phantom, in action, which led to his being abducted. He soon finds out that the ordeals he's being put through aren't merely to torment him, but to break him down psychologically in order to brainwash him and train him to become the next Phantom. Inferno is a criminal organization, much like a mafia, but one that operates on a global scale. Their aim is to unite and control all known mob organizations across the globe. In order to achieve this, they dispatch their greatest assassin, Phantom, who's an amnesiac girl named Erin, codename Ein, to deal with all dissenters. As Reiji, the Japanese student, steadily gets transformed into the next Phantom and is dispatched around the globe to take down Inferno's targets, he begins to grow increasingly conflicted with his inner conscience as he fails to reconcile the killer he has become with his original self. Through him, the audience is taken through a slow and haunting journey in which he attempts to reclaim his agency. Keeping him company is Ein, Inferno's original enforcer, who too had been transformed into an assassin through similar techniques used on Reiji. As these two broken and conflicted characters begin to find solace in each other's company, they begin to unravel the mystery behind their past and their employers. Through them, the anime explores the complex themes of identity, crisis, freedom, loyalty, and betrayal. The series explores Zwei and Ein's transition from mere dehumanized tools in a mafia turf war to two broken humans trying to reclaim their humanity and escape their past. The violence is graphic and impactful, as it's meant to evoke a sense of emotional tragedy in the audience. Phantom, Requiem for the Phantom, is a slow, methodical descent into the psychology of killing, paired with a tragic rise towards emotional liberation. It's both a thriller based in a world of crime syndicates and a quiet meditation on what it means to be a human in a world that treats people like tools. 91 Days. If you're looking for a no-nonsense anime that's a throwback to noir mafia dramas like The Godfather and Goodfellas, then 91 Days will do more than just scratch your itch. Set in Prohibition-era Chicago, the series follows Angelo Lagusa and his quest for revenge against the mafioso who murdered his entire family in cold blood. During the final years of the Prohibition era, the black market liquor industry was controlled by the Italian mafia families. Belonging to one such family is the accountant of the Moreno family, who are the most prominent mafia family in the lawless district known as Testa Lagusa. Unfortunately for Testa, he discovers a plot to overthrow the Moreno family by none other than their own underling, Vincent Vanetti, who harbored an ambition to place his own family as the top dog in their area. In a move to prevent his scheme from ever reaching the dawn, Vincent murders Testa and his family in cold blood before moving on to finish off the Morenos a little later. However, unbeknownst to him, he had actually allowed one of the Lagusas to survive, which would come to haunt him later. Angelo Lagusa bided his time for 7 long years until he received a mysterious letter summoning him to return to Lawless to exact his revenge. For 7 long years, he had nursed his hatred for the Vanettis, and during this time, he had not only strengthened his body, but sharpened his mind as well in preparation for the vendetta. However, Vincent Vanetti is no longer the ruthless patriarch he once was, and the Vanettis are quickly losing ground to rival families. His heir apparent is his son Nero, who's an idealist with a bright and positive personality that's befriended by Angelo in order for the former to get to Vincent. Nero, despite his kind disposition, does possess a ruthless streak when it comes to traitors and protecting his family. The entire story takes place in 91 days, during which this tragic tale of friendship and revenge unfolds. Angelo's revenge is methodical, slow-burning, and emotionally draining. Unlike many anime that seem to glamorize revenge, this one goes the opposite direction and deconstructs it. His actions lead to further chaos, death, and betrayal without any resolution. The implication is to show that revenge is never the answer. The town of Lawless provides not just a setting, but a symbol for a world and its people who are defined by power, money, and bloodlines rather than morality. Every single character is compromised as loyalty is fallible and betrayal lurks around every corner. Angelo isn't a hero, and Nero isn't a villain, as the series paints everyone with a coat of gray. 91 Days is a somber, sharply written gangster tragedy. It captures the human cost of revenge without resorting to melodrama and leaves a haunting impression through its realistic tone and morally complex characters. Crying Freeman, based on the eponymous manga series written by Kazuo Koike and illustrated by Ryoichi Ikegame, Crying Freeman is the tale of an innocent Japanese artist who gets caught up in the world of gangs and violent crime. It's a 6-part OVA released by Toei Animation from 1988 to 94, which has developed over the years into a cult classic. Yo Hinomura is a rising star in the international pot-making scene who's kidnapped by a Chinese triad gang called the 108 Dragons after getting unwittingly involved with them during an exhibition in America. The 108 Dragons are a vicious Chinese gang affiliated with the triad that rose to prominence during the 1970s. When the villains learned that some incriminating pictures of theirs had made their way into Hinomura's pots, which were meant to go on exhibition, they confront him and ask him to surrender the evidence. However, when he refuses to accede to the gang's demands, he inadvertently paints a huge target on his back. The Dragons were an interesting clan even within the triad, as their laws of succession were not hereditary in nature. They soon find out, after ascertaining certain facts about Hinomura, that he might just be their prophesized leader who was meant to be the strongest in history. They decide to kidnap the young artist in order to kill 2 birds with a single stone and place him under hypnosis, wiping his mind clean in order to train him as their leader and the greatest assassin in their history. Having been transformed into a deadly killer, Hinomura takes on the name Long Tai-yang and comes to be feared by everybody in the underworld. However, every now and then, Long's hypnotic trance breaks and he momentarily reverts back to his former self, during which he cries tears of anguish for the heinous acts he's committed and the lives he's taken, earning him the nickname Crying Freeman. As his mental conditioning begins to take greater hold of him later, his Hinomura personality rarely makes it out, yet his tears don't stop flowing after each kill. It's therefore suspected that crying has become a hardwired subconscious response. The series is packed with explosive action featuring lots of graphic violence, high-octane martial arts, and gang violence. There's also a good deal of nudity and sexual content present, making it highly unsuitable for underage viewers. The show features a unique protagonist and has a mature psychological undercurrent beneath all that pulp violence. If you enjoy classic gangster and crime anime with characters and stories that are morally complex, founded on adult storytelling, then Crying Freeman will surely appeal to you. Black Lagoon. Moving from the retro to something a bit more contemporary, let's talk about one of the most underrated gems in this genre, Black Lagoon. Written and illustrated by Japanese mangaka Rei Hiroe, the manga received an anime adaptation by Studio Madhouse spanning 2 seasons and an OVA. It's set in the fictional Southeast Asian island of Roanapur, a city of sin filled with all manner of crooks, lowly thieves, mobsters, and weapons dealers. Into this cesspool of humanity is dropped a gullible Japanese salaryman called Rokuro Okajima after he's captured and held for ransom by a mercenary group called the Lagoon Company. Up until that point, Rokuro had led an extremely mundane life, being ground to dust as just another faceless member of society under the wheels of the corporate machinery. His higher-ups considered him expendable and task him with delivering a seemingly important piece of equipment through the high seas when the ship he's on gets attacked by the Lagoon Company, who had been contracted to recover the asset for their own client. When the company refuses to ransom him, it finally dawns on Rokuro how meaningless his life was up until this point. After proving himself useful to the Lagoon Company, he joins them as their newest member, Recq. The Lagoon Company takes on various jobs, including assassinations, escort duty, and piracy, depending on the highest bidder. Their primary contractor is the Russian Mafia, led by an ex-Soviet military officer called Balalaika. The company is comprised of Dutch, who's a man with a mysterious past, Benny, a mechanic, Revi, the hot-headed female gunslinger, and Recq, the former salaryman. The series is unapologetically gritty and mature, with its cast of morally gray characters, bloody shootouts, and constant clashes with all manner of hoodlums from gangster nuns to Japanese yakuza. It explores deep human themes like corruption, identity, and the cost of survival in a lawless world. The fight scenes are cinematic and brutal, often feeling like a mix of John Woo and Tarantino. Madhouse's animation nails the choreography of the gunfights, helicopter chases, and the brutal turf wars. Revi is the star of the anime and is easily one of the coolest female anti-heroes in the entire industry. Her chemistry with Rokuro is dynamic and philosophical in nature, elevating the entire story as a whole. Rokuro's transformation from the gullible salaryman to a survivor trying to start fresh in Roanapur makes for a captivating watch. Just like 91 91 Days is lawless, Roanapur is a melting pot of people with shady backgrounds and those like Rokuro trying to start a new life. However, in this city filled with people who operate outside the law, a semblance of order exists, held together by a tenuous pact between the various powerful groups that lord over different parts of the city. Somehow, a semblance of order exists in this chaotic place filled with morally ambiguous characters. In this land of ever-shifting allegiances, Rokuro and the Lagoon Company navigate their treacherous path, encountering things that force them to question their own judgment and morality. The series contains a fair bit of content that can ruffle more than a few feathers, as it involves child abuse, war crimes, and sadism. Roanapur is a jungle where only the strongest survive, and as such, the lines between savagery and survival are at their thinnest here. There's a fair bit of content involving child soldiers, war crimes, and sadism. While the violence in the anime is graphic, with a lot of blood and gore, it's presented in a more realistic tone. The anime combines grim realism with pulpy chaos, posing important questions about morality and human nature, making it an unforgettable whirlwind. Black Lagoon is a cult classic action anime that pulls no punches. With memorable anti-heroes, morally ambiguous storytelling, and stylish shootouts, it's a must-watch for fans of Cowboy Bebop, Bakano, or Quentin Tarantino. Marvelous verdict! These gangster-themed anime offer a raw, thrilling dive into the darker corners of society, exploring the moral ambiguity, power struggles, and personal codes that define the often glamorized life of the underworld. Unlike traditional narratives that focus on clear-cut heroes and villains, these stories often blur the line between right and wrong, presenting deeply layered characters driven by loyalty, survival, and ambition. From the chaotic streets of Black Lagoon's Roanapur to the calculated psychological warfare of 91 Days, these anime provide gripping narratives where violence is currency and trust is always a gamble. Whether steeped in realism or stylized fiction, they reflect real-world issues like corruption, trauma, and the cost of power, often more honestly and in a more relatable fashion than their shonen or fantasy counterparts. We would love to know if you've watched any of these anime and which ones were your favorites in the comments section. Thanks for sticking with us right to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to check out the rest of our channel, where we post daily videos featuring all of your anime and manga faves. For now though, it's time for us to say goodbye. We hope to see you soon in the next one, but until then, stay safe and stay marvelous.